Obviously, it's been a lot of great work that's built up to today. And it started actually about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, Caitlin. And that's about 2 years ago. I got this email from this guy who you may know. His name's Caitlin Gallagher. And we got breakfast in Noe Valley in San Francisco right before he was going to a Giants game. Believe it or not, Caitlin, a Giants game, I know. He might be a fan. And, you know, Rita came on the team early on and really helped build the vision for the chapter. And with the hard work of Rita, Caitlin, and the rest of the advisory board, and if you guys could raise your hands, those folks who are on the advisory board, this wouldn't have been possible. So thank you all so much for your hard work. And very early on in the process, Ash Kalra signed on as the honorary chair for the chapter, and he's been an invaluable supporter from the beginning. So Ash, thank you again for all of your support. And very early on in our chapter's life, other supporters came on board, giving advice and insight to help make this chapter a great success. Nadine North is one of those folks, and Nadine, thank you so much for all of your advice and insight. And another person, Chris Kelly, who's going to be one of our speakers for today. So Chris, thank you for your insight and advice. And of course, thanks to our host, Latham and Watkins, for hosting today's graduation. And Mark, thanks for making that happen. So I don't want to talk too long, but I do want to talk a little bit about how NLC began and why what we're doing is so critical. Here in the Valley, but also all around the country. Several years ago when NLC began, we began for a few key reasons. One is that we found that our values, those of younger individuals who are progressive, were not being represented very well in government. That could be seen in many different lights. You can look at that in terms of federal policy where torture was being condoned by our president. You could look at it in terms of state policy where we've been having continuous education cuts. But one way or another, they were not being represented. So we wanted to figure out what could we as individuals who care about this stuff, who don't just want to sit back and watch it happen, what can we do? Well, we also noticed that younger people were getting the short end of the stick, right? If you were a student, you were seeing education cuts. If you were a young parent, you were seeing that the education opportunities for your future student and child were looking less and less promising in our public schools, and so forth. So we wanted to try to figure out what could we do to address that problem. And also, the culture in politics didn't really appeal to a lot of the most attractive and compelling potential candidates or people who should be involved in government or in the process in some way. So we wanted to find a way that we could find the best and brightest talented people to get them engaged in the political process, in the process of doing good in their community in some way. And you can imagine that when you see things that are happening right now in our current landscape, where you see people who are doing things that are just distasteful and they're public officials, that it just turns people off, understandably. So we decided that we wanted to make a big bet on a small number of people. In Silicon Valley, that number of people is 12. 12 fellows this year were selected out of a very competitive process and have gotten a great base of training, great relationships, great mentors, and ultimately a community that will last far beyond these 6 months. And that's really important, right? That what happened over the last 6 months shouldn't stop here. That what began is just the beginning. And that whether you move to DC or you move to San Francisco or maybe you move to Missoula, Montana, you'll have a group of people there that will be there with you as you move forward. Now, we talk about this idea of political entrepreneurship, and it tends to be a bit vague unless you actually know what NLC is, but it's really this idea of approaching social problems through an entrepreneurial mindset. And nobody does that better than Chris Kelly. Chris, as you may know, began a really great career far before Facebook, but at Facebook really got a really great opportunity to have a lot of impact, social impact, in our lives, and you guys are seeing it every single day. But left Facebook for a really important opportunity to try to be the chief law enforcement officer in the state of California. And he ran a great campaign and talked about issues that are really important to all of us here and that he's still working on today. He's a champion of online safety and protection today. He's also revolutionizing, and he'll probably talk about certain things he's doing in the business world, but he's also doing a lot of interesting work to lower the barrier to entry to people who want to actually have access to capital markets. So he's actually embodying the true sense of political entrepreneurship. And I want to introduce Chris to tell you more about some of his experiences and his words of wisdom for us as we chart our courses forward. So with that, Chris.